Well, my name is Mary Mattlage, and I live in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. I'm very much a local girl. I was born and raised in Martinsburg in Berkeley County, and in fact my family were among the first pioneer settlers of the area. William Snodgrass established the Snodgrass Tavern outside of Hedgesville, and so I have a deep kind of personal history and connection to this place, particularly Back Creek and the Hedgesville area, Back Creek Valley. So when I returned here 3 years ago, I left California, where I had been living for the last 30-some years, due to a wildfire. And I could just no longer live in California. I was terrified. So I moved here and back to my roots. I had always intended on coming back here, I think, for my retirement, because I love the area, I'm close to my family, and I know how special this area is. So after I had only been here, I've been here now 3 years, and within the first 3 months, I found out about a pipeline project that was going to go through the Eastern Panhandle, and this concerned me greatly, as they were talking about boring under Sleepy Creek and Back Creek, virtually the last pristine streams in West Virginia. And it was horrifying to me in the fact that the justification of these projects is always jobs, 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 money, money, money. But in fact, the Eastern Panhandle is the most economically competitive area in the full state. We have the lowest unemployment and the highest per capita income. And our income and prosperity is based on the specialness of this place, the history of it. It's based on agriculture. It's based on residential area, residential building and development because of our location. We have an absolutely amazing location here where people can enjoy a rural lifestyle, as we do here in Shepherdstown and many of the small towns here. And we are within very close proximity of Washington, D.C. and other metropolitan areas. So I saw this project as the beginning of the end of the prosperity of this area, that far from being a boon to our economy, this was going to destroy us. And it's heartbreaking to think about the clear cutting of my beautiful Back Creek Valley and North Mountain, or the boring under these beautiful streams. So I immediately got involved in the pipeline protests. I joined the Eastern Panhandle Protectors. This was 3 years ago. And we began fighting against the pipeline, basically. Not even knowing, really. It was always a question in our minds as to what this pipeline was for anyway. Because it was evident that in Martinsburg they already had an existing pipeline. It wasn't necessary for anything. It was basically a redundant pipeline, and as far as I could see, was bound to do more harm than good to our community. So it was several years into it before we discovered that the actual reason for this pipeline was to industrialize Jefferson County and to bring these toxic factories like Rockwool into our beautiful agrarian, beautiful Highland Valley community. And I saw this as a giant step backward for the community and an existential threat to those of us who have, I escaped the wildfires because I could no longer live outside in California because I have asthma. And then I come here, and again, my health is threatened by this, along with anyone else with respiratory problems, the elderly, children. This is horrific. It's a horrific idea. It's a stupid idea. So that's essentially how I got into this, is through the pipeline avenue. And in one of the very first meetings, I talked to Brent Walls of the Upper Potomac Riverkeepers, who discussed this issue of the karst geology. Now, this is something I didn't know it was called karst, but it's common knowledge to those of us who grew up in this area that underneath our feet are caves and springs and tunnels. It's a network And what I discovered when I was trying to explain to people about the karst geology, that they didn't know that. A lot of the people living here now are not local people. They don't have that local knowledge. Those people are gone, dead and gone. And the people coming into this community had no idea. It wasn't until I started talking to people about, well, your water's hard, right? And they're like, oh, yeah. And then I could explain to them, well, this is the issue, is that we're living on a sponge here. And it's not just a matter of cleaning up a river or a stream if something happens. It's a matter of contaminating our groundwater system, and it can't be cleaned up. It just can't be cleaned. So we're done for. It's a really frightening thing. It's terrifying, really, for everyone here. Those that are aware of climate change, for example, and the exacerbation of that through this fossil fuel expansion and infrastructure. To me, it's the height of stupidity, really, to introduce a factory that burns coal and natural gas at a time when we should be having a moratorium on all natural gas infrastructure. We should stop. We should not be building these things. We should stop now. I read a climate report just a couple of days ago, and it's dire. It's dire. It could be we've already reached the point of no return. And this terrifies me. It terrifies me for the future of our community, for the future of our planet, and the health of the biosphere. It's not the 1950s anymore. And we cannot continue this unfettered growth and expansion. So that's why I got involved in that. Then I arrived at a city council meeting in Charlestown one night in order to talk about the dangers of karst geology and the problem of pipeline going through karst, in which it could be going through sections where the pipe is completely unsupported. It could be going through a cavernous area. And then, of course, those seams and welds can very easily sag, be compromised, create friction, explode, leak. And they all leak anyway. Even the ones that supposedly aren't leaking are leaking. So this is a no drill zone. It's a no build this kind of infrastructure zone. And it has been proven by experts. Another thing I did first off the bat was I looked up the Kastning report. Dr. Kastning, who's a geologist who wrote extensively about the karst geology, especially in the region where the Mountain Valley Pipeline is being built. And his basic assessment was, we can't do this. We cannot do this. But the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, don't know who they're protecting, they deem it safe, and they have basically greenlit all of these projects. So the first time I heard about Rockwool was actually at a meeting there to discuss the dangers of the pipeline, and heard this name Rockwool, and I thought, what's that? And I went home and I looked it up, and it was it was just horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying that, okay, now I know what the gas is for.